topic. So what I see happen for so many agency owners is that ultimately your time is being bogged down because of your team's their own time mismanagement. They did not get to a project on time. They did not get the work done that they needed, and ultimately you are brought into a project. And then your things that you had on your list either get deferred, don't happen, or end up going into the evening hours or weekend hours and actually becomes a problem. This overarching training and this thing will work for you, but it's also portion communication, time management, and ultimately how do you actually get your team to be fully aligned. The mistake that I see happen here is that we don't actually give our team a system to utilize. We don't allow for them to actually fully understand exactly what they need to do, when they need to do it, and the essentially the filter that they need on what it is that they are doing with their time and what is going to be their focus here and what is going to be their focus in the next 30 minutes. So the opportunity is to allow for you to get into a place where you are not needing to manage projects. Projects are getting done appropriately. You're able to review them when you need to. Things are actually happening at the cadence that you need to. So you can have your day, your week planned in advance. And I know that I've done trainings on your ideal day and how to plan your own day, and that your actual ideal day can start to become a reality when your team isn't interrupting that day on an ongoing basis. So I want to talk to you about my own experience with this. So I went from a place where I was working a substantial amount of hours. I was regularly pretty overwhelmed on an ongoing basis. My team was not able to get the things done that they needed. We were getting things done into clients on time every single week, but ultimately a lot of instances was because I was coming in and saving the day. The team didn't understand how to manage their time fully. They were distracted on an ongoing basis. And now we're working a 4-day work week, getting more work done than we ever have before, and we have 4 team members less than we did before, as well as we are substantially larger, about almost double the size in revenue. So how can we allow for us to be able to be in that exact same place for you, being able to grow, manage the team, be more effective in the way that we're doing? So I want you to think about your agency in this sort of management, right? What we are looking for here is we want to be as effective with our team as we possibly can. The 3 components to this is helping them create focus, true for yourself as well, to have a plan that they need, and have the prioritization of what they actually need to be doing. In order for us to be able to do so, we have to have the right form of communication. We have to have real time management and ideally time blocking. And we have to really be able to help them remove distractions. We've spoken about this recently, but the concept of ultimately we are just constantly distracted, that is true for your team as well. And how can we actually help them not be in the place where they are continually distracted? So what was the first stage for us was this. Every single week, the to-do list that needed to happen for the team was mapped to when they needed to do it. The thing that we set up in our project management, if something was due to the reviewer or to me, their task had to be done the day before. So on Fridays, every single week, my team would go through and map out the projects they were going to do throughout the entire day, knowing exactly what they were going to do and when. That way, if this project took longer than expected and this one wasn't starting, they're now knowing that something is actually going off the rails and they can raise their hand, giving them a method to be able to know when something isn't happening the way that they need to, and when something isn't going to be able to be as successful as they needed to in order to be able to get their day done, allowing for them to be able to do so. The other component, as we mentioned, right, communication is absolutely imperative. And so we set up a way for us to be able to communicate and set up communication preferences. So we talked about, and I shared with them, they shared with me, how do we like to receive information? What is the most effective way and what is the least effective way to share information with me? How do we communicate resourcing issues? So what exactly is, they have more than 8 hours of work, and also scroll up. They have more than 8 hours of work planned for this day. They clearly can't get it done. So they are letting us know the Friday before that that's going to happen, so we can remedy the problem and actually come up with a solution for it before it actually is an on-fire issue in that moment. So how do they communicate those resourcing issues and a method to be able to find them? The entire team knows their communication preferences. How do they like to receive information? When do they like to receive information? And how do they like to manage stress? And then ultimately, how do you manage the urgent communication? So we've created communication standards across the entire team of how do you communicate. So our instant message service had way too much. So the Slacks, the Teams of the world, Google chat type stuff, ultimately was a massive distraction for myself as well as for the team. Ironically, when I looked into the data, I ended up finding that I was the biggest offender. And it was actually a point of stress for me. And so I had to remedy my own habit. But anyways, we ended up deciding that if something needed a response within an hour or two, that it would go into instant message. It wasn't for assigning a task. It wasn't for non-urgent communication. And it was meant for only like a quick answer, or I need to have a chat, or this is a problem, so that we can then remedy the issue and have that conversation. Anything that was needed the same day was communicated in our project management. That way people can actually focus on what they were doing. And then ultimately, this guy, our phones are utilized if something is actually on fire, which, bear in mind, I think has happened maybe 2 times in the past couple of years where a phone needed to actually be involved and a text message needed to be sent. So making sure that you have your communication preferences defined and doing these items. I started to hit on a little bit of the communication rules, but understanding exactly what those rules are is what we were talking about. So that immediate response is needed in a text or a call. 2 to 4 hours in an instant message platform. It's up to you on what you need as your instant message. Same day project management system. The other thing that we talk about is if there's 2 communications that happen, we move to a call. If there is more than 2 sentences for something, we create a video for it to provide the context. What is the outcome that we are looking for? And what does success look like for this project, so that it is clearly definable of whether it was done or not. So with this, we've effectively been able to manage communication. We've been able to manage time blocking and understanding that filter that they need. And the final thing is removing distractions. And so that distractibility on an ongoing basis, that communication piece, the rules is going to help in a big way. But one other thing I want you to do is actually go and turn off notifications across your entire team. Notifications across every single computer that are owned by my company are off. IT automatically manages it, turns it off across every single platform. That way the team is not distracted. They purposefully open a communication platform when they have the time. One of the other things that we do is we give them, every single team member when they're onboarded, are given a 25-minute hourglass. That way they can start to think in intervals of time and focus time. Focus is imperative to allow for people to be successful. So I want you to go and look at what I've spoken about today. Make a determination of what is going to be the most impactful for you. I think that the system in its totality is great. Not every single piece is directly implementable for you, and there's going to be nuance. If there is nuance, do me a favor and comment below. That way I can give you some advice on what you can do.